Welcome to the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each episode, I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. The Jedburgh podcast is founded in the lineage of the special operations Jedburgh teams of the past and is produced in partnership with Talent War Group, a management consulting and executive search firm focused on helping you optimize the people side of your business. We're sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving, making a difference in someone's life. Visit the Jedburgh Podcast, Talent War Group, and Jersey Mike Subs on the web and on all social media. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Green Beret Foundation, supporting America's Special Forces and their families.
So I was sitting at a desk and I was like, I gotta open a pizza restaurant. I literally knew nothing, right? So I remember I called some real estate agents and I went and toured some buildings. And they were asking me questions that, not only did I not know the answers, I didn't even know what the questions meant. My buddy who worked at EverFi with me and we were just like, let's just buy a pizza oven and we'll figure it out. And so we bought this pizza oven sight unseen. We bought this 67 Chevy sight unseen for $7,500 off eBay. And
well, I just bought a World War II truck, pretty off eBay,
yeah,
pretty
eBay,
much the same.
You can't go wrong on eBay.
Call your mother. Probably one of the most common phrases many of us have ever heard or thought about sometime in our lives. It's also one of the fastest growing delis in America and one of Bon Appetit's 50 best new restaurants in America. For this episode, I took a break from my 3-day recording marathon in Washington, D.C. to sit down with Andrew Dana, founder of Call Your Mother and better known as Chef Doughboy. Andrew grew up thinking he only had a few choices in life: be a doctor, be a lawyer, or be a businessman. So he became a window salesman and went to business school until one day he realized his late night pizza binges were simply market research on his true calling. He bought an old Chevy pickup truck and a pizza oven and he started showing up wherever people would have them. Today, Timber Pizza is Andrew's other Bon Appetit ranked restaurant. Andrew and I sit down at the bar during prep time at Timber to cover his entrepreneurial journey, the ups and downs, and what it feels like to follow your dreams and forge your own path. We talk about the risks entrepreneurs take to develop their product, their team, and their value. We also commiserate around the feeling that we're always just one event, one customer, one meeting from that single point in time that launches our whole plan and puts us on the map. A couple of pizzas led Andrew to his first investor, his head chef, turned business partner, turned wife. The restaurant business is competitive and COVID rocked the industry to its core. Andrew shares the decisions small business owners have to make in difficult times. Andrew was prepared to take the bank account to zero to protect his employees and his team. With 7 Call Your Mother locations in DC and more coming to Denver this year, the line around the block remains for the Thunderbird. I say get it with the spicy honey. Changed my life. Visit Call Your Mother Deli and Timber Pizza the next time you're in DC. Find them both on Instagram at Call Your Mother Deli and Timber Pizza Co. Learn more about their story at callyourmotherdeli.com and timberpizza.com. Take a listen to my conversation with Andrew on your favorite podcast platform. Watch the full video version from the bar on YouTube. Subscribe to us and follow at Jedburgh Podcast on all social media. And check out our website, jedburghpodcast.com. Andrew, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is the best time of being in a restaurant. I honestly believe that. We're here in Timber. I so appreciate you coming in early and meeting us here. The tagline of the podcast is how you prepare today determines success tomorrow. And this time of day for the restaurant, although it's not bringing in any revenue right now, if you don't do it, you don't get any revenue.
No, absolutely. A lot of restaurants do a lot of, shortcuts and buy stuff already prepared off trucks. And, we're making everything from scratch here. It's 8-something a.m. right now, getting ready for dinner service. So, yeah, this is where the magic happens.
Well, we've been watching it here at Timber. Before we came, we stopped by Call Your Mother, which is the bagel and deli that you opened.
Yes,
We're going to talk about both of these, but I had the Thunderbird this morning.
Sir.
You were watching me eat it as I was setting
up. I was a little
up.
jealous. I was like, where's mine?
It was awesome.
Thank you.
The maple flavor,
yeah,
I think is what absolutely makes it.
Yeah, maple salt and pepper bagel, man. I don't know anybody else is doing that.
Well, the pizza truck's outside too. And when we were talking about setting up this episode, we said, let's do it in the pizza truck, but it's 35 degrees outside.
No. I don't have a thick enough jacket for that.
No, I don't either. But we're going to go out there and we are checking out the pizza truck. But both Timber and Call Your Mother have been on Bon Appetit's list of the 50 new best restaurants in America. You've recently expanded Call Your Mother into, I think, 7 now locations in D.C. You're going into Denver now soon. You have a couple of new initiatives with a few more restaurants in D.C. that we're going to talk about. You started a peanut butter brand in e-commerce.
Yes, sir.
The president came.
Yes, sir.
President Biden stopped by, call your mother. Not bad for a guy who 10 years ago had no experience in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, man, we've been on a little bit of a heater. You know, the dream was literally just to like get out from behind my desk job and make pizza with my hands, and that's sort of where the dream ended. And then we accomplished that dream. We were like, oh shit, like what's next? And this thing has just taken on a life of its own, and you know, we've been very blessed and very lucky thus far.
Well, let's start with the initial idea.
Yeah.
Your dad is an attorney, and you felt that you had to take this traditional route. I got to be a lawyer. I got to be a doctor. I got to be a businessman. And I'm going to challenge you on the businessman piece, because this is certainly a business that you've built, and it doesn't matter if you have one restaurant or 30.
Totally.
You are definitely a businessman. You said, I'm going to go into marketing, but I really want to open a pizza shop. Talk to me about being at Fordham and the research that you were doing unbeknownst to you that would lead you into the pizza industry.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Prospect Heights in Brooklyn, and I was walking distance from this pizzeria called Lucali's, which is now like world renowned. And I was there, I think it was the first year it was open, so it hadn't like totally taken off. And this pizza was insane. The first time I went, I think I had 7 slices, and I was like, this is bonkers.
I can't control myself with pizza, by the way.
What are the animals that'll eat until they die or the food's gone? That's how I am at Lucali's. And it was just like I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the vibe. And, you know, there's other great pizzerias in Brooklyn. I was just eating at tons of pizza places and bagel places. But the real sort of aha moment for me was learning about the guy who opened Lucali's, and he had 0 pizza making experience. And he was making the best pizza I ever had, right? He just sort of figured it out. And I had this moment where I was like, yeah, it's not rocket science. At the end of the day, it's dough, sauce, and cheese. And like, if you just, you know, figure those things out, it can be good enough. Now,
a lot of Italians been doing it for centuries.
Yeah, now I was still way too scared to start the business for a couple of years, but I at least had this moment where I was like, okay, I don't have to go to like culinary school to figure out how to make pizza. It's not rocket science. And then, you know, for my 2 years in Boston, in New York, I probably went to Lucali's. I mean, I honestly like 75 times in 2 years. So I was doing my market research while I was in grad school.
What makes a good pizza?
You know, it's really not one thing. It's like, as I said, it's dough, sauce, and cheese, and they have to sing together. So it's like a good band where they all have to complement each other. So there's different ways they can complement each other. I personally like a slightly like crispier pizza. So like classic Neapolitan pizza, you know, is cooked to over 900 degrees in like 90 seconds, very soft and chewy. It was good. There's a time and place for that. Personally, I like it to be a little crispier. I like a very fresh sauce. Like some people, I think, overcook their sauce and overseason it. I like a fresh, bright sauce. And then the cheese, like you need the fatty mozzarella, but I love a sharp provolone in there too to sort of cut through some of the fat. And if you get those 3 things to sing together, you're cooking with gas.
Wow, I've never heard it explained like that.
I don't know if I've ever explained it like that before. That just came to me. Let's go.
As you're explaining that, I'm watching behind you, everybody prepping it, and now I'm thinking, when we get done with this, I think we got to make that.
Let's do it,
because it's already fired up back here. So you decide this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of trying to figure out, how do I get into the industry? Where do I start? And the initial thought is, let's get into brick and mortar. But then you realize pretty quickly that might not be the best way to actually begin.
So I was sitting at my job. I was sitting at a desk.
Selling Windows at this point?
This was post-Windows. I was now selling financial literacy programs to community banks.
I worked at Merrill Lynch when I was at NYU. I think I told you that, in business school. I was at Merrill Lynch, so I feel it.
I was selling to community banks in Western New York and Ohio and Massachusetts, and I was on a plane, and I was just like, this can't be life. So I was sitting at a desk, and I was like, I got to open a pizza restaurant. And I literally knew nothing, right? And so I remember I called some real estate agents, and I went and toured some buildings, and they were asking me questions that, like, not only did I not know the answers, I didn't even know what the questions meant, right?
Triple net.
Like, I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? And so I left, and I was like, okay, I don't think I'm ready for that. Like, what's a way I could start this in a more of a bite-sized chunk that I can chew? And then I remember when I lived in Brooklyn, every Saturday there was a Brooklyn flea market, and there was a mobile wood-fired pizza oven there selling pizza. And I was like, that's something I could wrap my head around. Then you just have to focus on making great pizza and giving great service, and sort of you can figure out sort of the peripheral stuff later. And so basically sight unseen one night, I think it was February, my buddy who worked at EverFi with me and we were just like, let's just buy a pizza oven and like, we'll figure it out. And so we bought this pizza oven sight unseen. We bought this 67 Chevy sight unseen for $7,500 off eBay. And
well, I just bought a World War II truck, pretty off eBay,
yeah,
pretty
eBay,
much the same.
You can't go wrong on
so,
eBay.
I hear you.
No, eBay's undefeated. And then the pizza oven people were just like, hey, the oven will be ready in 3 months. So we had 3 months to basically be like, all right, how do you start a business? How do you make pizza? And then just every day we just hit the ground running and sort of figured it out.
Once you get it up and going, you get everything and you start hitting these the different farmers markets. Mm-hmm. You had a great quote that I want to bring up here, and it was this was the most bootstrap sort of grassroots thing of all time. Our marketing was basically showing up anywhere and having an insanely positive attitude, like pumping great music and trying to make great pizza.
That's a fire quote. I said that?
You said that.
I love that.
Why was that the attitude, and why did that begin to kind of put this train in motion and put a spark behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like part of it was we thought we were making good pizza, but we're also two, desk job jabronis who didn't totally know what we were doing in the culinary world yet. And we were like, what we can't sort of do culinary wise, we can make up for with great service, great personalities, and a fun time.
You called it grit too.
Yeah. So we just went out there and we're like, we're going to win people over with our personalities and just pure sort of like positive attitude. We're going to make good pizza that's going to get better every day. And then we're just going to like outwork everybody else. And like, if somebody would have us, if they said, "You're sure you can come sell pizza?" Like, we didn't like even ask a second question. We're like, all right, we'll be there, which led us to some heinous, events. But like, we were just like relentless in showing up. And like, I truly believe if you like show up enough, good things start to happen. Like, you make your own luck, right? So a good example is we went and sold at a DC brewery in the middle of winter, in the middle of nowhere. I think we sold 3 pizzas, but this guy came out wasted and he was like, I'm an investor. And I was like, all right, buddy, I'm sure you are. Yeah. And he like gave me his card. I was like, okay, man, like have a good one. But I followed up. And he ended up investing $50,000, which helped us open this restaurant, right? So it's like
That's
this,
huge.
like, yeah. So it's this thing where it's like, if you just relentlessly show up and relentlessly have a good attitude and try and be like your best version of yourself every single day, eventually good things start to happen. So
I talk about creating opportunities. People ask me all the time, what do you have to do? Because everyone thinks there's some trick. What's the trick? How did you get there? You get there because of exactly what you said. You wake up every day and you do the best job that you possibly can in that 24-hour period. And then you wake up the next day with the exact same attitude. And you have to get out there and create opportunities for you. Nobody's coming to your door unless you're super lucky, and luck doesn't get you anywhere. You have to go and find ways to meet with people. And what you said, I mean, is amazing, because I feel like those small things that everyone's going to look at and tell you, oh, that was a waste of time. That was a waste of time. You sold 3 pizzas. Yeah. No, it's not about selling the 3 pizzas.
Right.
It's about the relationship I built with this person who now helped me achieve this.
Totally. No, and like I tell people all the time, like the most important thing is just launching, right? Like so many people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect business plan, the perfect financing. And it's like things can always get better, right? And if you never launch, you'll never be able to figure this stuff out on the fly, and like good things won't start to happen. So it's like, don't have failure to launch, start, and then just run through every freaking wall that there is.
I'm quoting that in the promos.
Rock and roll.
I like that one. We talk on the podcast about the 9 characteristics of elite performance used by Special Operations Command. I told you there really wasn't going to be a test question, but I might throw a couple of them in there.
Oh boy.
Drive, resiliency, adaptability, humility, integrity, curiosity, team ability, effective intelligence, and emotional strength. When you look back on your journey, and I give you these because this is what Special Operations use to recruit, assess, and develop their talent. And elite performers, you're going to have all of them, not necessarily at one time. But when you look back on your journey, and I throw those out there, I can show you the list if you need, what were those core characteristics, and you don't have to use these ones, that what you think really got you up every day to continue this mission, even when you're like, we sold 2 pizzas, 3 pizzas today?
You know, I mean, I think the one that really jumps out to me there is humility and a couple different aspects. Like, one is we now have almost 300 employees, and we still act like they're doing us a favor. We're not doing them a favor, right? So you have to have this humility that, like, people can go work anywhere. People can go do anything.
Especially
and, like,
now. I mean, they're doing it.
And so if they're working for you, it's like you need to earn that every single day. And, like, that same attitude we had towards our product and our service. And, like, even today, like, some people are like, oh, like, how do you, like, when did you realize, like, you made it? I'm like, I still don't think I've made it, right? Like, it's like every day we wake up and we're like, oh, shit, this could go away today. We're still not good enough. The product still needs to get better. The service still needs to get better. So it's like, it's this attitude that, like, every day you need to get better and we haven't made it is, I think, what keeps us, like, sort of on our P's and Q's and able to sort of maintain our service and our quality. So that's the one that really jumps out to me.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I mean, there's a lot of quotes around it, that are in leadership kind of, I call it noise. But when I work with athletes, I consistently tell them that, at the Division I level, at the professional level, you're there. You got a seat at the table. But if you're going home at the end of the day and you're not asking yourself, what more can I do?
Yeah.
You're not going to win. You might do well.
Yeah.
You'll do okay. And you'll look back and say, yep, I had a decent career and I did this. But if you want to look back and say, I won, the people who do that are the ones who leave every day and say, there's something else I need to be doing right now. And then they go do it.
Yeah. And, like, there is no business that is more relentless than restaurants. Like, you're open every single day. You're only as good as your last service, right? So it's like, how many times have you seen the Yelp review where it's like, this was my favorite, Chinese restaurant. I came every week, and the last time I came, it sucked. 1 star. I'm never coming back, right? Like, you're truly only as good as your last service. So it's like, there's no, like, unplugging for the weekend and I'll get back to it Monday in a restaurant. It's like, you got to bring it every single day. Every single day, you got to look for ways to get better. So the second you start to be like, oh, we're awesome, we're great, is the second it starts to go away.
Yeah. Can I ask about Dani?
Of course.
Because your ability, well, that's the other opportunity that was created through the pizza truck was when you were introduced to your now wife, Dani, and this young woman comes up and asks you if she can help.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Or something like that.
No, I mean, we met at the farmer's market. Like, we were both trying to buy eggs, and there was 1 carton of eggs left, and we decided to split it. True story, which sounds like some made-up bullshit. But
well, I think the best stories are always like this, where it's, no shit, there I was minding my business.
Yeah. No, and then, like, she came back up, and she came up to us and said, like, oh, like, if you need part-time help while I'm waiting for my, like, fine dining job to start. And we were like, you want to work for us? Like truly, at this point, we had, like, begged our friends to work for us, and, like, that was it. And we were like, okay. And the first day she came and worked for us, it was actually an event around the corner here before we opened this restaurant. It was just so apparent so quickly. She brought, like, a level of expertise and, culinary, like, know-how that we just totally lacked. And our jaws were on the floor the first day. We were like, this is our missing piece, right? Mm-hmm. And in college, I had a championship intramural basketball team, and I'm pretty good at basketball. But what I was great at was, like, recruiting and just, like, being like, nobody else is recruiting for all of intramural basketball, right? but I did 4-time champs.
There's an untapped talent pool out there.
And I basically started recruiting her, like, day 2. I was just like, you don't, like, forget that fine dining job. This is where the future is. And she basically was like, I didn't go to, the CIA in Hyde Park for 2 years to sling pizzas with you dummies. But just, like, was relentless and tried to show her what this could be. And then eventually offered her equity and brought her into the fold. And, nobody has ever worked harder than Dani. Like, her work ethic was just insane, and her attention to detail was insane. And, yeah, like, we absolutely would not be where we are today if we hadn't met her. I mean, just obviously my wife and I are going to have a baby.
couple more weeks, and then it's all going to change again for you when you have the baby.
No, so it's like, there's a couple moments that's like meeting her, the Bon Appetit stuff. Like, there are these couple pivotal moments where you can, like, I can see where the path, like, changed ways, and it's been awesome. And bringing her in helped, like, because I was cooking and coming up with the recipes before her. And I think my strong suit is really sort of like the marketing, branding, sort of the front of house fun stuff. And it allowed us to like really own the stuff we were really good at. And then she just brought a level of consistency. Like our pizza recipe before she came in it said like 2 yellow scoops because the tablespoons we had bought were yellow.
Different
she was like,
colors.
what the hell is a yellow scoop? She was like, what if you lose these? Are you going to know how to make the pizza? I was like, we can't lose those scoops. So she like came in and like, changed the game and made everything way more consistent. So, yeah.
So you said there's 2 loves of your life growing up. One was pizza, and that brought you into the pizza business. The other one was bagels.
Yeah.
What prompted this shift as Timber's growing and it's becoming an established brand? Now you set your eyes on what becomes Call Your Mother and the bagel business. How come?
Yeah, I think there's 2 I mean, one is I think our favorite part is like the creative aspect. It's creating a menu and designing an interior space and like building a whole brand and all that. So like we love that, right? Like we love starting from a blank slate and saying like, what can we create? And I think part of it was just like, did we get lucky with Timber, or like, is this something we're actually good at? And we wanted to prove to ourselves that we could like do it again, basically. So we were like, let's go challenge ourselves to see if we can create another brand and like show that we weren't sort of like a one-hit wonder. And then like the idea of being able to start from scratch and design an interior and build a new menu and all that stuff was just like so attractive. And so, I mean, the first year and a half of Timber, we worked every single service. I think one of us made literally every single pizza for a year and a half. So like finally we were able to like take a slight step back and be like, okay, what's the next challenge? And, met the right guy who wanted to back us and become our partner, and bada bing, bada boom.
I like your research stories because we talked about your research here for Timber, but then when you talk about having to figure out now the bagel business, you spend time in New York City, you spend time in South Florida, even California. You're flying bagels in from Canada. What did that allow you to understand, and why did you truly, like the pizza business, accept that in order to jump into this, I have to learn? And we talked about curiosity earlier. Why was that so important to being successful right off the bat, and maybe not have to learn some of those lessons that you had to learn in this establishment at Timber?
I mean, I think in order to try and be the best, you have to like learn from the best, right? And so who makes better bagels than New York City, Montreal style, and then tons of people retire to South Florida and they make great sort of Jewish deli products down there. So you have to like learn from the best to sort of be the best is one. And then Dani's from Argentina. She did not grow up with bagel culture. She did not grow up with any sort of Jewish deli culture. So it was fun starting with her from a blank slate. And then I think we learned that, and it's why we do sort of like fun riffs and twists that we do, is going to all these places. We learned that like a lot of them are competing with nostalgia and your childhood and your grandmother's cooking. You're going to lose that battle every single time. Like my grandmother probably wasn't that good of a cook, but like picturing her matzo ball soup, I'm like, it was the best, right? And like no matter what I try now, I'm like, it's not as good as Cheryl's. And so instead of like playing this game where we're competing with nostalgia, we're like, let's play a different game. Like let's not compete with like the classic old school delis that people remember from the childhood. Like let's do something different. And so I think there was an aspect of that was just like a business idea. And then part of it was that Dani's from Argentina, so she didn't sort of know what traditional bagel toppings were. So she was like, let's do a za'atar bagel. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that.
What's a za'atar bagel?
Yeah, so it's like this Middle Eastern spice blend, right, that I'd never seen on a bagel before us. But she was just like, oh, you put different seasonings and seeds on bagels. Like, why wouldn't this delicious seasoning seed mix work? Mm-hmm. And it does. It's great, right? And it's one of our best-selling bagels. So I think it was cool to go to all these old school delis to sort of see what the classics were, and then sort of it helped us sort of grow into our own creative journey.
A big part of marketing is the creative aspect of it. And you brought up that bringing Dani in allowed everyone, you said everyone got to focus on their strengths, which I think is so important in building sustainable organizations. You know, you look at, we see it a lot in sports, but even in businesses too. leaders who come in, and there's kind of two schools of thought, right? One is, let's talk about your weaknesses and let's invest a whole bunch of time and money and all this stuff in making you better at what you're not good at.
Yeah.
Or there's like what I call, more the Bill Belichick way, which is, okay, you're really good at this and you're going to do that one thing. And, when it's third down and 30, you're coming in. The rest of the time, have a soda on the bench. Right. But that allowed you to do this. The marketing and the branding behind Call Your Mother really stands out. I mean, I was driving up the road to it this morning, and I didn't see Craig over there standing on the corner waving me down. I was fixated on the color scheme and the branding. Can you talk about the branding behind it? And I also know you had some challenges getting some of that branding and the color schemes approved in different areas of DC because they got rules and stuff, which is generally for everybody else in my mind, but affected you.
I mean, I think it all starts with why I was attracted to the restaurant industry. And so like in grad school, I was looking at sports marketing, and I think what I really didn't like about it was like so much of it isn't real. It's fluff and it's storytelling and like not based in reality. And what I love so much about the restaurant industry is like either the food and the service is good enough to come back or it's not, right? Yeah. And so our marketing and what we want to do has always been based on authenticity and realness. And so we basically just tried to create fun brands that like we would want to go to. And so with Timber, it's like from the get-go is like, I want this to feel like you're at a summer camp in like Vermont, right? And just like super woodsy and like, old school. And then for Call Your Mother, like before we even had the name or the menu, I was like, I know I want this to like be like Miami Vice, sort of like 80s bright pops of color, and like everything else will fall in line. And so like, we're not doing anything overly sort of creative or cutting edge sort of with our marketing and our Instagram. It's just like every day we try and be like our best, like authentic versions of ourselves and just like be fun and like show people who we are. And like, thank God people have sort of liked who we are so far. But really it's like the one word that I always go back to is authenticity. And I think people can like sniff that out from a mile away.
Yeah. Talk to me about the name. Where'd it come from?
Yeah. So like I just said, it was like we had the vision of what we wanted the brand to be. Like we wanted it to be fun and lighthearted. And, so many Jewish delis are the same. Like so many industries, everybody plays from the same playbook. You go to a Jewish deli and there's the subway tile and it's like a last name or it's your grandfather's name. It's like all the same shit, right? And so we were like, from the get-go, we were like, we just want this to be different and fun and bright. And we struggle with the name. Some of the names we like were contemplating are so bad. But like we knew we weren't going to stop until it was perfect. And so one day I was at dinner with my friends, and I was like, what's some funny stuff like our Jewish grandmothers, our mothers would have yelled at us? And somebody was like, you should eat something. Put some meat on your bones. And then my friend's sister yelled, call your mother. And I was like, oh my God, like just light bulb went off. And I was like, that's it. It's incredible. A, because it's like such like a Jewish grandmother thing to say, and it's fun and it's memorable. But B, it's something that like all cultures get, right? Yeah. Like my Argentinian wife's mother loves it. It's like so it spans all cultures while it's also a very Jewish thing.
One of the big decisions that you've made in the establishment of your restaurants is buying local. Mm-hmm. And there's massive food distributors out there. There's certainly a need and a place for them. But you've put a lot of focus, especially when we were talking about the chicken sausage earlier, and we talked about the eggs. You're buying 2,500 eggs. Mm-hmm. There's an entire chicken farm who's making eggs for you. Why is buying local so important?
Yeah, I mean, like, I truly believe it tastes better, right? So it's like I think these happy chickens that are actually roaming the fields and eating a super healthy diet, like I truly believe they make a better egg. So that's like one hard stop, period. Mm. Like the bacon we get from this local farm, I think is the best bacon I've ever had in the world. So that's one, and like you never skimp on quality. And then two, it's like support your local economy, and it's like all boats rise with the tide, right? So now we're using this great local farm. Then they tell people, hey, Call Your Mother's using our great bacon that you like, and it starts to feed off of each other, right? And so we're all rising together. Yeah. And it's Logan Sausages, who you tried their chicken sausage this morning.
So good.
Great local sausage company, right? And so
customer for life, right?
Yeah. A, the sausage is freaking incredible. And then B, people love Logan Sausage. Oh my gosh, Call Your Mother's using it. Let's go to Call Your Mother. And then somebody goes to Call Your Mother. Oh my God, I love that sausage. Where's that from? from? It's Logan Sausage. And so we all rise together. We all support each other. So it becomes more of a team sport, which I think is the way to succeed.
COVID crushed so much of the industry. You grew, I think at that point to about 150 during COVID. You said you're at 300 people now. You added 5 locations. You said at the outset of COVID that you were prepared to take the bank account to zero.
Yeah.
What did that mean?
You know, it was early times of COVID, and you saw people running for shelter and protecting themselves, and that was it, right? And I think it was a time when people's sort of true colors sort of started to shine. And we've been preaching for years that we're a family and we're going to grow together. And I tell people, don't look at this as just a restaurant. Look at this as a startup, and we can build careers here together. And the prep ladies that you see here have been with us for 5 years, right? And so, you know, when I was watching other companies in different industries basically laying people off for the survival of the company, I was like, the people are more important than the company, period. And we've preached that we're all in this together. And so, like, what kind of, like, human being would I be if I sort of didn't practice what I've been preaching for all these years? And so it wasn't even like a thought to us. It was like, of course we're going to go down together. And we're not going to, like, try to preserve cash by firing people so, like, hopefully we can exist. It was like, we're in this together. We're going to pay you all as much as we can until the bank account goes to zero, and then we'll sort of see where we're at. And that was it. And I think that's honestly the best decision we've ever made, because obviously the staff appreciated it. And then the staff, like, was just like, you know, you ride for us, we ride for you. Right. And so then we were all in this together, and we were, you know, creating magic all throughout COVID, which allowed us to grow.
Yeah. That idea of, you know, we're there to create careers, not jobs.
Yeah.
Is what creates a unifying mission, you know, within a company. And
yeah.
When we treat and we look at, you know, them people as not employees but as valued members of our team, and we see this a lot in my security business. You know, and security officers, very much like the hospitality industry, you'll see high employee turnover for 50 cents an hour, you know, $1 an hour. But if you're able to create an environment in which people say, well, when I come in here, they invest in me and I see a career trajectory, or I see being here for a long time and the value that brings, you can reduce that turnover. And then back to your point on quality, one of the biggest degraders of quality is often the consistent turnover.
Totally. No, I mean, that's the main reason we're trying to grow these brands right now is, like, A, we love a new challenge. We're always looking for the next challenge, and none of us have ever created a big business, so we're like, can we do this? But B, it's like to fulfill the promise that I said, like, look at this as a startup, right? And, like, there was a guy who was a part-time baker who's now a head of accounting and finance. Like, truly, like, people are growing into positions that didn't even exist 2 years ago, right? Now we have a head of HR.
You were accounting and finance.
100%. And, like, the guy who runs all of our social media and is, like, a head of our marketing, like, he was just, like, front of house with us at Early Parkview. And so, A, it's really cool that we've gotten to create this career path for him. But B, nobody will ever understand the brand as well as he does, because he's been there from day one, and he's, like, been in the trenches, right? So it's like, Call Your Mother DNA is in him, but his DNA is in Call Your Mother. And so it's like, you could go hire a social media expert, but they would never understand the DNA of the brand as well as he does. So it's like, these, you know, it's important to, you know, hire great people, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's really important to, like, bring people along for this journey. And A, it's great for them to build a career, but B, it's good for the business, right? Because, again, nobody will ever understand what it takes or what the early days were like or what the DNA of the business is more than somebody who's worked for us for 5 years and been in the trenches.
Yeah. One of the things that you're doing here is you're splitting tips and paying everybody full wage. How's that differentiated you from the majority of the industry? Yeah,
I mean, so a lot of times it's front of the house gets the tips, back of the house flat hourly rate. And so I think that, like, one is Dani came from the back of the house and she was like, this is bullshit. Like, we work harder than the front of house. We're more important to the success. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And then I came from outside the industry, and just like from an outsider's perspective, it didn't really seem fair. I was like, what? Like, why would everybody's working the same for the same goal, same hours? Like, why is one group making way more than a different group? And so when we opened Timber, we were like, let's just try this. And it's everybody's, in the boat, paddling in the same direction. The more tips we get, the more money everybody gets. So it just seems fair. It puts everybody in the same boat together. There's no hierarchy. And it's really worked for us. And it's like really brought teams together. And if the kitchen's falling behind, somebody from the house will go help the kitchen. And if the front of the house needs somebody running food, somebody from the kitchen will run out. And it really creates this team effort that I think only exists when sort of it's an even tip share.
So you have 7 locations here in DC. You're going into Denver. What was the impetus and what was the driving factor behind expanding into a completely different market?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the growing a big business and creating new opportunity. We knew we wanted to go prove this in a new market, right? Like, it goes back to going from Timber to Call Your Mother. We wanted to prove that we weren't like a one-hit wonder. And I think we wanted to prove to ourselves and to our employees and to the world that this is a real brand that has legs. So that's where we started, and then we flew to a bunch of different cities. We were in Boston, Miami, Austin, LA, looking for what we thought would be the next market. And all these cities, I was doing mental gymnastics. I was like, yeah, I guess we could go here, and those buildings sort of make sense. And then we went to Denver, and everything just clicked. We found the perfect real estate, and the neighborhoods really reminded me of DC, and we do so well in these these neighborhoody spots. And then I realized Denver has so many East Coast transplants who love bagels.
I lived there for 12 years.
Yeah, see? But there's not really a dominant bagel player out there.
Not at all.
And I just thought it was wide open for us to come in and be cool, and it would just be a natural sort of fit for us. So
one of your investors said, quote, it's rare you find an entrepreneur who brings everything together. Vision, product, creativity, execution. As a couple in business, the two of them are the full package. It's a pretty good compliment.
Damn.
What is it? When you having understood your story, knowing where you've come from, where you want to go, what does that mean to you?
I mean, it's nice to hear stuff like that, because when you're in the deep end of the pool, it's hard to sort of have that perspective, right? We're just trying to keep our head above water most days and survive, and how do we get through this day to the next day? So I think we need to be better at sometimes taking a step back and being wow, this is really cool what we've accomplished. Andrew 8 years ago would be flabbergasted to where we are now. But when you're just creating every single day, it's sort of hard to see that. So it's great to hear that kind of thing. We just try and bring the heat every single day, and now we're we definitely still have some blind spots, so we're trying to hire great people to help fill some of those blind spots.
You said you have 3 keys to future success. You might know. I don't know if you know you have 3 keys.
I talk a lot of BS. I don't know. Yeah, what are the 3 keys?
There were 3 good ones that you put out there that I want to ask you about. You mentioned a couple of them, but I think that they're important to kind of reiterate here. Maintaining quality, providing incredible service, and ensuring that the people you hire continue to grow with you. As you look forward, everything in any industry is easy when you're small scale.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to continue those 3 core fundamentals as you grow and expand into new markets?
Yeah, I mean, it's just never cutting corners on your core values. It's crazy because you're in this industry, you're incentivized to cut corners. The big, food distributors, literally it's cheaper to buy a finished product than it is to make something from scratch. And it's basically from top to bottom buy-in that there will be no corners cut. We're never going to give up on our values. And if our product's not great every single day, what are we, right? Yeah. We know the restaurants that have grown too fast and all of a sudden the quality's not the same. We've seen the cautionary tales. And so it just starts from there's certain things that are non-negotiable. We are not going to cut corners on quality, period, hard stop. We are not going to change our level of service. Like, you will never walk into a Call Your Mother and have a self-order kiosk. We're just not going to do that. Right. We are a people business. Like, in 2022, when you can get anything delivered to your couch, like, people are coming to us because it's an experience. So we're going to, like, continue to do that. And then, like, never forget who your road dogs are, who's helped you get to this place, right? Like, there's never going to be like, oh, Tim, thanks for helping us get social media to 100,000 followers, but now we're at this new level, we're going to hire an expert, right? Like, no, it's like ride with the people that have ridden with you thus far.
Andrew, as we close out, I got another test question for you. And you can't use these three because we've already used them. The Jedburghs, they needed to do three things every day to be successful. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, and they had to be able to communicate. If they did these three things with the utmost precision as foundational tasks for themselves, then they could focus their attention on more complex challenges that came their way, like defeating the German army. What are the three things that you do every day to set the conditions for success in your world?
Just like my personal things?
Personal ones, yeah.
I meditate and exercise aggressively every single morning. So I wake up at 5 every morning. First thing I do is meditate. Then I go for a walk in Rock Creek Park to spend some time in nature. And then I exercise. So this now frees me up for the whole day, that I don't have anything hanging over my head. It puts me in an incredible spot mentally. My body has been exercised, so I've gotten rid of all that anxious energy, and I'm allowed to just focus on the things that, like, totally matter. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs and people in business sort of put that stuff on the back burner. And I think it's like the foundation to be successful. What you want to do is take care of your mind and your body and eat healthy. So I think the three things are meditate, exercise, and eat healthy. And if you do those three things every single day, your body feels great. It's easier to focus. It's easier to stay in the moment in your business, and it sort of allows everything to click.
Meditate, exercise, eat healthy. And in moderation.
Nah, you gotta live.
Yeah, and you gotta eat pizza and bagels. You just gotta do it in moderation.
100%, yeah, totally.
well, we had the bagels earlier. I'm hoping to have some pizza now if I could talk you into it. but I really appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with us. I talked about the 9 characteristics of performance that SOF uses a bit earlier. At the end of each one of these conversations, I think about these 9. I think about our guests, and I think about their story and which one of these really exudes what they've done and where they're going. And we talked about humility. You mentioned that one as being central to your thought and an analysis of your journey. We talked about curiosity in terms of marketing. We even talked about integrity and doing what's right for the employees, doing what's right for the product. Adaptability we talked about, and having to change the business model and continuously find ways. Resiliency.
Yeah.
I sold 3 pizzas, but I got an investor, and now look where we are. The teamwork that you're building here, the effective intelligence, learning from the past,
totally, and
trying to apply that to your future decisions, and emotional strength, and not just being calm in the chaos. You talked about COVID. And not losing your mind and running and going internal, but looking at the big picture. But there's one more here I didn't mention, because that's the one that I think really exudes what you're doing, and it's drive. And I think I talk about drive in the terms of everything starts from drive. You'll always hear me put drive first when I give this list. And then normally after that, I'll tend to go in whatever order comes back to my mind. But I always start with drive, because if we don't wake up every day, as we spoke about earlier, and think about where we're going and where we want to be, and then get out of bed and take the first step to go do that, none of those other things really matter, because you're never going to get there. 8-10 years ago, you were selling windows and financial products.
Yeah.
And today, you're expanding into new markets in a totally different industry.
Yeah.
The quality's great. The people are great. It's been wonderful to sit here with you. Continue to push. Continue the drive. I go to Colorado a couple of times a year, so I'm going to be looking
There
at
it is, man.
Denver.
All right, we're putting you down for a dozen every time you're
There
out
we
there.
go. And when I come back to DC, I'll certainly be visiting you again. But thanks for taking the
Awesome,
time
man.
this morning.
No, my pleasure. Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thanks. American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Director to the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As a former member of Special Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast donates a percentage of all proceeds to the Green Beret Foundation, supporting America's Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.